Hi, I'm Casey, and I'm the dog source, and I'm here to put you in touch with professional canine people to give you information on training, breed specifics, health, and legal issues in the dog world.
We're just unifying everything together, man. In God we trust.
With any breed, what you put in, you get out.
You teach your dog some good socialization skills. You teach your dog good obedience. I don't care what the breed is, you're going to have a good dog.
I think the law should be changed. Don't punish the dog, punish the person.
And remember, we always tell people, you make a dog, the dogs don't make you.
We respect the pit bull, we respect the AM staff, we don't deny its ancestry, but this is what we feel is the evolution of the breed.
What you want to work with and what you want to do within your yard, there's no new without the old. When you take that code and it's watered down too much, gotta reach back. Gotta reach back.
If you look back at the early 1900s, it was a revered family pet. In the World War I, you would see a lot of the war posters depict an American Pit Bull Terrier. Stubby is a famous, in fact, Sergeant Stubby Pit Bull Terrier. He was the most, and still is the most decorated dog in military history in the U.S.
I mean, the dog represented America in so many ways, from our representative in World War I, it was our mascot. Teddy Roosevelt owned one. I mean, Helen Keller owned one. Petey from the Little Rascals.
My first dog, she was an American Pit Bull Terrier, and we used them for different purposes at the time. I think in my dad's day it was used a lot for stock dogs, and what I personally use the dogs for is for conformation, weight pull, and my son Guy is into hog hunting, so they make excellent catch dogs.
The first dog that I ever slobbered on, pet, was a working dog, Pit Bull Cross, that doggone was my man. Anybody that's read my book knows about Tip. And that's where I got started with old Tip. When I was 3.5, 4 years old, he pulled me out of a mud hole where I would have drowned had it not been for Tip.
I started about 19 years ago with game dogs. You know, I was a young kid growing up in the city and trying to be like all the other young kids, just wanted, you know, a dog that tried to represent that kind of street image, you know, not for the right reason, but that's the reason we had the dog. So I got into a line called Mayfield, which is one of in my opinion, one of the most famous old school, you know, game bred lines.
I've been doing this dog thing since I've been 3 years old. Grandfather bought these dogs to Louisiana, and I was right there with him, reading hand pedigrees and learning how to breed from a true game breed dog, man, the real true dogs, the real true pits.
We started in South Los Angeles, where these dogs are a very big problem. Through everything we've been promoting, they've learned now. They know it's not cool to fight dogs. It's not cool to be breeding, especially when you don't know what you're doing. Now they're the ones preaching it, you know what I mean?
I started out with Dalmatians and ended up inheriting someone's American Pit Bull Terrier, and I grew up with one, so I knew that they were great dogs. They're very intelligent dogs, and the other thing is they're very, very willing to do what their handler wants them to do.
My dogs would do anything for me. You know, anything I want them to do, they would do for me. And that, I started to fall more in love with the breed and the way they were towards me, more than anything else.
Very adaptable to kids and home life. These dogs are very universal.
You know, my son has seen hundreds of dogs come in and out of his house, in and out of his yard, and you know what? He's never been bit by a pit bull. He's been bit by other dogs, but never a pit bull.
And our son also knows the respect that you give a dog. You don't go tormenting it in a crate. You don't pull their tail. You don't.
But as much respect as he's shown, he's still been snapped at, bruised, actually punctured a little bit from other dogs, other breeds of dogs.
I've got 12, 15-year-old dogs that's never been to the vet in their life, you know, and they just don't have health problems. Not only have they got somewhat of a natural immunity, but just 1 or 2 shots in their life, And they've got all the bases covered because they're a dog that seem to adapt well as far as immune system and health issues. All the years of my growing up, I was around working dogs, a lot of American Pit Bull Terriers, American Pit Bull Terrier crosses, and that sort of thing. I have a tremendous amount of love and really admire and appreciate the working dogs, both hog, cattle, or man.
We had a dog as American Pit Bull, 124 pounds for $49.75. The dogs enjoy it so much. I mean, we try to do something with our dogs to whereas, you know, passing time, we ain't fighting them, you know.
I always had the bigger, stockier, you know, dogs because I felt like that as a protection dog, that was the best type of dog to have because if you had a 40-pound dog and he got on a man trying to break in your house, he could run down the street with him. But if you got an 80-pound dog, he gonna stay there until the police get there, you know.
What I would like to talk about is the importance of the training when it comes to dogs. Pit bulls have had a really bad reputation during the past couple of years, maybe decades, and it's been unfounded because, as you can see, whenever you take the statistics of dog bites, comparing pit bull dog bites to any other dog breed of dog bites, the pit bull is not even close to being in the top 5. So many of this has been come from misinformation of what actually a pit bull is and what it does. In this case, the pit bull has always been bred from days past to fight against another of his own breed. More or less like boxers will spar and, you know, swap it out in a ring, and it means it's just a sport for them. And the pit bull has been bred to actually do that and think about it as a sport, not actually to kill another dog. And training, when we do training, more or less what we're doing is teaching the dog what to do with those natural abilities that he already has. It also breaches the gap of communication that we have between our dogs and ourselves. Once we teach the dog how, and we train the dog to different commands, he knows exactly what we're saying, and he knows he's being taught exactly what you expect of him in that situation.
By nature, the American Pit Bull Terrier is a very friendly dog. It's very human friendly. If a person tries to make the dog mean, you can make any dog mean if you treat it in a certain way.
This is Elizabeth with Dog Source, reporting from Louisiana at Barkus 2008.
Too many people have put deeds with the breeds instead of deeds with the people. And you know, you can raise a dog that's wonderful no matter what the breed, what the mix, or you can raise a dog to be very mean and ornery. It's really the person that has to be in control of the pet. So we're really happy that this year Queen Lucy's a pit mix, because the pit mix makes up probably 90% of the dogs that are euthanized in our shelters throughout Louisiana.
I'm here with Emily and Trapjack.
Trapjack is a 3-time cruelty case in Orleans Parish. He was destined to be a dog-fighting dog, but when he wouldn't fight, then the man beat him up to the point that he almost lost his leg. He was then sold off to a couple different people before we were finally able to get custody with the Louisiana SPCA. And he became my foster dog. I rehabbed him for 6 months, and then I decided to keep him, and I got his American Kennel Club Good Citizen title, and he passed that, and he now works as an education dog for the Louisiana SPCA. We actually do anti-breed specific legislation talks and anti-dog fighting talks for the SPCA and for other groups, and he's a purebred pit bull. We saw something in him, so I decided to put the extra work into him, and I never regretted it. They're nothing to be afraid of. They're just big, strong dogs that in the wrong hands can cause damage, but in the right hands are some of the best dogs you'll ever have.
Awesome.
The only time you're going to see these dogs on TV still right now is because they bit somebody, or you heard they're about to attack somebody, or some other bullshit. You know what I mean?
It was a springboard for the booger bear. In other words, American public, if you don't sell news, let it be something that's scary and something that's booger bearing. And the news media has always capitalized on the slightest wrong that has to do with the American Pit Bull Terrier, and it sells news. And you let a bulldog save somebody's life from a burning building, or save a child from being bit by a rabid coyote, well, it makes, page 17 of Section C. And if it's a bulldog that maybe bit somebody, or maybe killed a neighbor's poodle, it's on the front page. And in fact, some of those dogs aren't even bulldogs, but they're mongrelized dogs.
As far as I'm concerned, they're the old American dog. Mild-tempered athletes, I wouldn't have any other breed.
It was America's breed, and America turned its back on the breed. Once they said they deemed it illegal to fight dogs, they deemed it inhumane, they turned their back on the breed. And now they're deeming it like America's public enemy #1 or something, and it's not. This is America's true breed.
Ordinances that are passed by cities and counties affect our rights as dog owners.
We had a hard time owning them. They started passing some breed-specific legislations where I lived in PG County, which is right outside of D.C. It's in Maryland. And they forced you to get rid of the dog. So I ended up moving to Virginia to bypass these laws.
As a group, we've also put together a program to donate to Pet Pack and to just educate people on breed-specific legislation. It's so important to educate the general public. If you're riding on a bus, if you're at work, if you're riding in a car, to just educate people on the important aspects of breed-specific legislation, because it's going to affect all of us.
There's just such a wide variety of people who support these dogs and have these dogs and own these dogs and love them.
When you have laws, who's going to follow them? Only the people who follow laws. Right. So you're targeting, when you have mandatory spay-neuter, you're not targeting loose dogs. They're fair game to animal control as it is. Right. You're talking about dogs that are owned and contained on an owner's property.
Everything that the breed-specific legislatures want to hear is what's going on in the media, because it sells, you know what I mean? But through hard work like us, man, we're going to change all of that.
Our organization fights breed-specific legislation all over the nation. We fund lobbyists and lawyers to help try to defeat or prevent any kind of laws or restrictions based on the breed of dog rather than the actions of the dog or the owner.
We have donated just this past year over $40,000 to the states trying to fight breed-specific legislation. And one thing that we try to do is educate owners not to let your dogs run loose. One of the most important things is that if you see something that's happening in your town, don't be scared to go to that town hall. Don't be scared to get up there and get your 3 minutes.
They've lifted the ban in England. We've come into our senses in this country. HSUS and some of the animal rights group have seen that they're not going to just do away with them. So here in Texas, for example, last session they come at us with 20-something bills. And when that happened, we got the coonhound people, we got the Bade Solid people, and the NRA of Texas helped us. And we went down there and sent them home, 20-something bills killed in committee. And the few that they did get through, they got them through in a very watered down base, and bills that I think is going to be of no consequence to the American Pit Bull Terrier owner.
This is the Texas Dog Commission. As you can see, it's the watchdog protecting owners' rights. This group was formed because back in approximately November of 2006, there was actually a terrible event with a couple of dogs that were stray dogs in a trailer park that killed a young boy. And the Pit Bull Terriers were blamed. For 8 days in the media, day 9 in the back pages, we found out, indeed, these were not Pit Bull Terriers, but the media had a sensational ride for all those days that they were.
Believe it or not, we got the American Pit Bull Terrier. This is all the bully breeds. The Mastiff, Bull Mastiff, Rottweiler, Doberman, the Chinese Shar-Pei, the Boxer, German Shepherd, the Dogue de Bordeaux, the English Bulldog, the Chow Chow, the Great Dane, Labrador Retriever, the Tosa Inu.
Inu has made it in.
That's made it in there. That's a new one that's made it in there. In any mix of these breeds.
Any dog can be mistaken for any breed, and when you start labeling them by breed, what happens is then the owners of the dogs have to prove what their dog is not instead of what it is. So if your dog is unregistered or a mix, and they ban a specific breed, you have to prove that your dog is not that breed. Right. And this board's been a quiz for the public to identify breeds for people who really think they know what each dog looks like.
Well, let's see if I know. Let's see how educated I am in the dog game. I would say this is the Staffordshire Bull Terrier.
Yes.
This is a Bull Mastiff.
Yes.
This is a Rhodesian Ridgeback.
Yeah.
This is a Perro de Presa Canario.
Yes.
This is a Great Dane.
Right.
This is an American Staffordshire Terrier.
Those ones are tough, yeah. Yeah, you must have looked at these beforehand.
This is a Dog de Bordeaux.
Yeah, you looked at these.
No, I
you
didn't.
had to. There's the Chinese Shar-Pei and the Chow.
The Argentina Dogo.
Yeah, Argentina Dogo. That's an American Bulldog.
American Bulldog. Pit Bull Terrier.
American Pit Bull Terrier.
That's a Pit Bull Terrier, red nose, Old Family Red.
The other problem with BSL is that they base it on bite statistics, and a lot of times bite statistics don't take into account the popularity of a breed. The Labrador is such a popular breed, they're going to have more bites from a Labrador. Also, bite statistics are only bites that require medical attention, which is going to be your larger dogs, not your Chihuahuas, not your Maltese. And the person who's bitten reports what breed bit them, which goes back to this. They may not know what breed bit them.
Texas is one of the 12 states in the country that we have a prohibition against breed-specific legislation in our state law. And so we have to fight to keep that.
Denver has banned the pit bulls. Toledo, Ohio's a bad state. They've just about banned the pit bull there. Aurora, Colorado is another heavy state, and the laws have been defeated in several cases in Oklahoma at this point.
You should be able to keep your dog no matter what it is, as long as you're a responsible owner.
I've been a trial lawyer for many years, and I have a passion for dogs, and the two passions finally converged, and all of a sudden it just seemed like a lot of people were asking me about dog laws, so I decided to learn about them. I ended up writing the only manual in our state on Texas dog law, and it includes cats.
So what is your main focus in the dog lawyer industry?
That's interesting because it's very varied. It can be anything from a dangerous dog case to cruelty to dog fighting issues to also fighting about legislation concerning our dogs, both on the state and local level. We're all for voluntary spay and neuter of pets, but we don't want the government mandating that we should do that. I mean, you look at the show dogs here today. These dogs are shown intact. In other words, they're not spayed and neutered, because when you're looking for certain things in an animal, it's a genetic trait that you're wanting to promote and to carry on the breed. It could be a hunting dog. If a hunting dog has a good nose, a good propensity to hunt, that's something that's innate. You can't teach that to a dog. You can break a dog that has a good nose of bad habits. That's teaching. But you can't teach a dog to have good hunting genetics. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with judicious, responsible breeding of a dog, as long as we're not talking puppy mills, we're not talking commercial breeders that have no regard for the animals except to get money out of breeding. That's not what we're talking about. We're against that as well, and would like to see that off of the face of the universe. Denver passed breed-specific legislation where they outlaw any kind of pit bull terrier or bully type of dog. And when they started enforcing it again several years ago, they were actually rounding up people's family pets and killing them.
They came to my home and took 57 dogs of mine. The first thing Monday morning, my lawyer called the shelter in New Orleans, and we were prepared to post bond on these animals. And the lady informed my attorney that it was all euthanized within very short order. I gave my grandson a puppy when he was 4 years old, and he named the girlfriend, and we trained, and she became a national weight pull champion, and she was a house dog. And they picked her up in that raid, and euthanized that dog. And my grandson got home from school that afternoon at the age of 10. And he said, they called me Poppy. He said, Poppy, where's my dog? I said, baby, they took him, they killed him. Needless to say, this is not nice on camera, but they just don't give a damn. It's all about money, not about the dogs. I'm living proof it's not about the dogs. It moved me so much that I had a heart attack over this. And due to the stress of losing my animals that I've worked hard for over half a century, that took it upon themselves to be judge, jury, and executioner for 57 of my dogs that didn't do anything to anyone besides wag their tails when they were going to their death. And they finally reduced the charges to 48 counts of cruelty to animals and dog fighting. I thought it was unfair because my dog didn't deserve to die. And this judge was very fair-minded. And when it was over, he stood up and said very clear and very loud, he addressed the DA. He said, I don't see where y'all showed me a shred of evidence that these gentlemen were guilty of what they were charged with. She was acquitted on all charges.
I fight vigorously along with other people to make sure that doesn't happen in Texas or in any place.
Join a club of some kind, and just numbers make a difference. You don't have to join and be a working member, but just join.
We need everybody to band together, all the bully breed owners, all breeds, and to fight this so it will not get passed in this state. But there's other organizations other than the Endangered Breeds Association that you can contact, as well as us, to help fight these BSL laws.
I've known a lot of good breeders. You take Mr. Lewis Colby. He had the Colby line down from his dad, and very respected man, and he has a real good line of dogs. Mr. Gary Hammond out of Texas is also another good man. But
you know, I've knew Floyd since, I'm going to say, the mid-'70s, and Floyd is a man of integrity, a gentleman from the old school. In other words, Floyd, Lewis Colby, some of those guys are just, they're a cut above almost any dogman you'll ever know, because they're honest, almost to a fault, integrity, and a tremendous amount of love and passion for the breed.
And Mr. Jerry Clemens, as we mentioned earlier,
Durango. He's off of Boudreaux Skull and Black Flash.
There he is. Look at there now. More. There she is. Boot. Yeah. There you go. Weird and go.
Real heavy 6 bits female bred to Boudreaux Reno.
I got serious about breeding dogs after I got out of the Army in 1968. I'm real pleased with having had some pretty good dogs over the years. Most of them were American Pit Bull Terriers. Some of them were crosses and what have you. But my breeding program today is next to nothing, because there's just not good people to sell dogs to. I think that integrity tells us that we shouldn't sell to everybody that wants American Pit Bull Terriers.
And I personally didn't get involved in the breeding part of it until about 1954. I got a dog from Mr. Earl Tudor out of Hoboken, Oklahoma, off of Dibo, and I called mine Billy, Blind Billy to be exact. And he's went on to produce a lot of different line of dogs. Eli line, then it went on to Bullet's Son, it went on to Midnight Cowboy, and it went on to Baker's Midnight Cowboy, and it went on to Reddick's Herman. From Reddick's Herman, it went to Maverick. From Maverick, it went on to Reno, Skull, and also the Boomerang line, Mr. Carver's line, Maurice Carver's line came from us, Leo Conant came from us, and several more that I don't recollect at this time.
Bruno's on the cover of my book, and I've had people say, why did you put that bad-eared, ugly, hound dog-looking sucker on that book? Because that was the best dog that I ever owned. And to this day, even with Rufus through in the mix, which he was a good one, but Bruno was my #1 dog of all times, and he'll always hold a special spot in my heart. You know, I started out with the old Bruno Heinzel stuff, and oh my goodness, I'd still have them today if they hadn't started shrinking, and the tighter I bred them, the smaller they got, and by the 4th and 5th generation, a 30-pounder was a big dog. And in those days, you're not going to be able to, and cattle was my first working dog. I bred a lot of cattle dogs. And you just can't work cattle, especially if you're going to catch, with a 30-pound dog. You just can't do it. At the same time, I don't like 100-pound dogs. So 50 is to me about the optional range for a dog that's a working dog. So I incorporated the alligator dog at that time, and I was around those guys that had alligator, Soko, and Rennie, and I owned Rennie at one time myself. And I incorporated that into my breeding program, and it was very, very successful. Since then, I've used quite a bit of the bully, which is the bully son Eli Jr. stuff of Maurice's, and the old Stompin' Otto stuff. I've used that in my breeding program. And more recently, I've used a little of the Tonka Red Baron, which is based a lot on my old Bruno Heinzel with a little bit of the alligator. I've used it, and I've used some Snooty, which the Spike stuff of Tom's is excellent dogs. And it was kind of an accident that I used those dogs, but I'm convinced that they're superior dogs in that they've got sense, and they're trainable, and they're hard and durable and all that stuff. So I like them, and I've also used a little bit of the Panama Red pretty successfully. The British Isles were I think, a centralized point for the breed to come into itself. And I think probably the biggest factor of them being as good as they were the nomadic peoples, the gypsies, and the people that carried them around for rat killing or dog fighting or what have you, and even hunting dogs. I hate to give us too much credit as Americans or Texans or what have you, but I think they were really fine-tuned here to the point where when we sent them back to England in the 70s and 80s, they said, "What is this?" They were just very, very pleased. And of course, they used it with the Lurcher, and they used it with the Patterdale Terrier, and then they used it to itself. And they too have done very well with what we fine-tuned. I think they may have fine-tuned it a little bit more.
We used the Mason Hogg stuff for the gameness, we used the Carver stuff for the ability, and we used the Watchdog stuff for the real strong prey drive. And I would explain stuff like that to, you know, I would say one of my mentors, Casey Cordier, and he always knew that I was going in the right direction. He shared that with me a lot. So what happened was when he was getting ready to get rid of his best prey-driven dog, which was Watchdog Beelzebub, he called me up. He offered to me first. And I was already driving back and forth to Arkansas breeding the dog, you know, and that really sent me over the hump and stuff, you know, so the bloodline just really took off after that. American Dog Breeders Association recognized my line of dogs as his own bloodline. And lots of times today I hear everybody got this bloodline. Bloodline is just used so easily nowadays. Everybody got one dog, they got their own bloodline, you know, but after breeding this particular line of dogs for, say, 10 years, they wrote me a letter because they seen the consistency breeding within the family of dogs that I had. And they say, you mind if we put you in the library as a registered, certified kennel with its own bloodline, the Chaos bloodline.
I started looking at some Amstaffs. I found a book, and it had this dog called Steeltown Blue Monday. It's a solid blue dog, unbelievable, gorgeous dog. Prettiest dog I think I've ever seen in my life, and it was an Amstaff. So I started researching the Amstaff lines more, and I come to find out that the Amstaff came directly from the American Pit Bull Terrier. They took the American Pit Bull Terrier originally to the American Kennel Club to register the dogs, and back then they didn't have breed standards for the dog. If your dog was basically a game dog, it was bred to be game, they didn't really care about any physical standards. So the American Kennel Club denied the breed, so they started their own registry called the United Kennel Club. Years later, breeders wanted to participate in the AKC, so they took strands of the American Pit Bull Terrier, bred them for show purposes, gave them their own standard, went back to the American Kennel Club, and reintroduced them as the American Staffordshire Terrier. So the American Staffordshire Terrier and the American Pit Bull Terrier became two separate breeds as far as registry is concerned. However, they were both the same blood. I mean, American Staffordshire Terrier is from American Pit Bull Terrier blood. It was just bred for a different purpose, the purpose of showing, basically. So over the years, when they did that, they created a more docile dog, a dog that had a lot less dog aggression in them. Still the same personalities. Neither breed ever had, human aggression, but these dogs, American Staffordshire Terrier, they actually worked out the dog aggression. And it created a cleaner, more refined dog, a little bit bigger dog, but just a more physically appealing dog for a show, what they're looking for. So it became two separate breeds. Anyway, I fell in love with that breed for the look of the breed. So I got heavily into those dogs. I got into some bloodlines called White Rock, Ryan, Ruffian. Ruffian's probably the biggest line in American Staffordshire.
Y'all listening, that's 100% Ruffians right there, man. 100% Ruffians.
His genome code is tested the closest to a dog named Skybolt of Harwin, basically. Ruffian Skybolt of Harwin is the dog they line bred to really create a lot of the staffs that are out there these days, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, he's behind Gaff, he's behind the Rowdy Town stuff, he's behind the Sunbolt stuff, he's behind it all, really. His genetic makeup is some of the original stuff that makes our dogs today. And if you can see it, I mean, just the head size, the bone, the short back, the cleanness of him. He's a 20-inch dog carrying about 80, 85 pounds. On his best day, 90 pounds. Yeah, he's Grand Champion UKC, pointed AKC. He's out of a dog named I'm a Nightmare, Brave Star I'm a Nightmare. And his mom name is Tossel Dice. He's bred in the bully world. He's really done it all, man. He's about 9 years old. Look at him, he act like a little kid still. We have Motivation, which Motivation is off of Astro. Motivation was bred to a dog named Shelby. Jim brought Shelby down here, you know what I'm saying? But Shelby's off of Cairo Lupe. Cairo's off of Paddington, Clover Hill, you know what I'm saying? Which goes back to Mr. Brooks and Sierra, Penny Packer. This is where we got Motivation right here.
That's some ADBA paperwork. Okay, looking at this pedigree, we're gonna go down here. You can see the Ruffian, Red Rock of Harwin. Gray line started from Ruffian. It also has Castile and Larson dogs. And like I said, the asterisks are the Staffordshire Terrier in the bloodline. And that's the sire to the gray line, first litter, and there's Showtime. And everybody probably seen Candy's Little Starfire in books. All these are famous dogs that originated from the Staffordshire Terrier bloodline.
The staffs that I got into were more males could range from about 75 to 90 pounds, females 60s and the 80s, bigger dogs. So I ended up going back to the United Kennel Club, which allowed you, the UKC, to register your staffs back with them as American Pit Bull Terriers. So when I went back and did that, I got into some other bloodlines within the United Kennel Club. And I started to cross my dogs. I started to take my staffs, which I got registered as pit bulls, and crossing them with some other, pit bull bloodlines, creating a look that I liked. What I decided after having these dogs, I had the body mass that I liked. I really was in love with that body mass, so I wanted to keep that. But I saw some dogs over the years, a couple lines called Watchdog. A friend of mine had a line called GMJ where they had real pushed-in muzzles, like blockier, like brick-shaped heads. And I fell in love with that head, so I was like, you know what? I want that head on the body that I had from my Amstaff. So I started combining the bloodlines that were carrying physical attributes of what I was looking for to add into the Amstaffs that I had. We started calling them bully for the way they look. So the term bully stuck to the dogs. Everybody started calling them bullies. So we decided, you know what, this is America's breed. We're going to reintroduce it as America's true breed. So we're calling our dogs the American Bully.
I love all bullies. It's a much larger dog than the American Pit Bull Terrier.
I think the American Bully, if developed properly and handled by the right people, can be a wonderful dog to own.
I will say this about the bully breed people. In our last fight in Austin, they come to bat. And they didn't come with their mouth. They helped us with their pocketbook. They put on shows for us. And so even though they're a little bit different than us, and they're different from the weight pull people and the AKC people, we got all pulled together, so I love them.
When I was breeding these dogs, it wasn't called a bully dog. It was just a big pit bull, a bigger style pit bull.
You know, you gotta love a big-headed dog with nice muscular shoulders, you know. And sometimes my wife thinks if I was his bully, you know.
It's changed my life, man. I met so many different people, man. Been so many different countries, places, where I would have never have been. And I thank God, man, that I met a lot of good people, man.
This American Bully breeding is growing, and all thanks to the American Pit Bull Terrier. That's where they originated from. And I'm very happy and pleased to see the results today.
From north to south, you'll see a variation of it all, Gotti line, gray line, and head. So those are really the foundation bully lines.
Like I said, I really started this in 1990, and I would say by 1997, 98, I was producing the style of dogs I was looking for, and that you see everywhere today, which is, the razor's edge dog. They had larger heads, brick-shaped heads, blocky muzzles. They nice, body all the way. They had to have muscle from the chest to the rear. I wanted a very physically impressive dog. Powerful, hard-looking face on them, physically intimidating looking, but I didn't want that personality. I still wanted that, eagerness to please its owners, the stability with humans, all the things that were characteristics of the pit bull, but I also wanted the temperament of the Amstaff, which you could have them around other dogs. They weren't dog aggressive. You could be at a show and dogs could walk by each other.
I would have to say Dave Wilson. I would go ahead and give him the credit for having the perseverance of just continue to strive to make something different.
I've seen a lot of stuff coming from the East Coast to the West Coast. I opened up the papers. I seen Dave's dogs from Razor's Edge, and I fell in love with his bloodline. I just ran with it, and I'm here now, man.
The most intriguing and interesting bully line at the time was Dave Wilson's Razor's Edge line and Richard Barojas' Gotti line.
The Gotti line would probably be a bigger dog, maybe a more taller dog. Razor's Edge was a little lower, a little wider, more compact, but me being around dogs, different style of dogs, so I kind of like both styles.
How you guys doing? I'm Richard Baraz, the founder of the Gotti line Bloodline Pit Bulls. Gotti line started back in 1997. Started off in LA. This is Prince Gotti. That's Legend.
Everybody's here to see the Gotti line.
I started messing with pit bulls as a teenager. I would say I got my first pit bull when I was like 15 years old. It was a red nose. I think it was Hempfield bloodline. They were a little taller back then, more like game type dogs, And I just got infatuated with pit bulls, and even back then, I was trying to get dogs, shorten them down, the red noses. So we're looking out, going to Venice Beach, trying to find the shortest red nose we can get. And I was pretty successful in them, bringing them shorter, bringing the pit bulls a little shorter, somewhat bully, but not necessarily bully. And then I got introduced to a guy named Tony Moore. He had a dog named Raider, and I had never seen a pit bull like that in my life. I was mesmerized when I seen this dog. It was a blue dog. He was about 77 pounds with a 25-inch head. And he had the best rear end I ever seen, and a perfect square head with a perfect bite. And I told myself I must have something out of that.
I have to commend Richard Barajas. He did a very good job, outstanding job in promoting Gotti. Juan Gotti is a direct son of Raider 2, and Raider 2 was bred back to Callie Love. Callie Love is a Raider 2 daughter. Okay, they produced Juan Gotti. And Grand Fuba he's more than half brother. He's about like 90% brother to Juan Gotti. They have the same mother. Callie Love is the mother of Grand Fuba and Juan Gotti, okay? Juan Gotti's sire, Raider 2, is Fuba's grandfather, okay? Fuba's sire is Digo. It gets kind of complicated, but Raider 2 produced Digo, and that's where you have Gotti and Fuba where that circle connects. They are they're not 100%, but they're in the high 90s. That's Shabazz. That's actually Juan Gotti's direct litter mate. Richard took Juan Gotti, and he also bought a dog named Ebony. And Ebony was the litter mate to Grand Fuba. Okay, he bred, Juan Gotti and Ebony bred together. That's two gray lines breeding together. And Ebony and Juan Gotti, when they bred, they produced the dog named West Side Monster. Okay, so Ebony and Fuba bred produced Monster. So you have three gray line dogs. Ebony being gray line, 100%, Juan Gotti, 100% gray line, produced West Side Monster, 100% gray line. But it's obvious that Richard Barajas has his own distinct look, his own bloodline, Gotti line. Now, the dogs that come off of the Gotti line dogs, such as Blackjack 21, Rhino, those dogs are Gotti line dogs. You cannot take that away from Richard Barajas. He founded his bloodline, he used the gray line dog to make his bloodline, and the rest, as they say, is history.
I got pretty lucky when I got Juan Gotti. He was pick of the litter in my eyes, and everything just changed for me after that.
All these guys have produced what you would quote unquote a heavy hitter in the Gotti line movement, which have produced a lot of these Gotti line dogs you see today.
Okay, some of the dogs I produced was Monster. Monster produced Goliath. Goliath would pretty much change the game for I would say for Los Angeles area, West Coast area, as far as Gotti line dogs. I mean, Gotti line is so different styles. I mean, the Gotti line bloodline ranges from 40 pounds to 110 pounds. I done seen 40-pound pig with a 19-inch head to 110-pound pig with a 27-inch head, you know? So it depends on what you want. You just gotta do your homework, be aware of bad breeders also. A lot of people, they get these little dogs and half of them can't even breathe, you know? You get some fat dogs, you take them to a show, you can only walk them to the crate. That's not a pit bull in my eyes, you know what I mean? You still want your dog bully, but you also want your dog a little bit athletic. Look at reputable breeders, somebody that's well known, not just anybody that's gonna buy a dog and just keep their dogs in cages all day, you know? Like, you wanna work with your dog, you wanna know your dog, you know what he's about, you know what I mean? Because pit bulls ain't for everybody. Okay, now I'm gonna introduce you guys to some of my Gotti line family. Well, this is my friend of mine, pretty loyal, he's a good friend. His name is Chema from Ruthless Kennels. This is one of his new studs he wants to introduce the public to. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
His name is Ketchup. He's out of Dexter to Deja Vu. So I'm Andrew, Westside Kennels, out of Golden Boy in Savannah. Savannah was produced at Westside Kennels, out of Legend Little Bit. Which, you know, I like how they were built. They had a lot of bone and mass, which there's other bloodlines out there which I could have choose from, but I decided to stick to Gotti line.
Okay, I want to introduce you guys to Andrew's dog, Cash Money. He's making a lot of noise right now. This is his daughter right here. We bred one of my females and got this out of it. But check him out, man. Look how freaky. That's what you call extreme. You don't see no dogs like that. That's taking it to a whole nother level. This is Gotti line extreme dogs right here. That's like the guy. That's like winning the lottery in a pit bull game. That's what everybody's chasing right there. That look. It's hard to get that look, man. Only certain breeders can get it. Gotti line, bloodline, once again, baby, worldwide. Gotti line's nasty. That's on Westside Kennels, Cash Money. Gotti line, bloodline. South Bay Gotti line Kennels, this is Caesar. How you doing, Caesar?
Well, as you know, this is my up-and-coming stud, and I'm happy to be a part of the Gotti line family and the Gotti line crew.
Another thing I want to show you guys, this picture was made for me by a gentleman in Tennessee by the name of Ricky Jackson. It's a handmade painting of Notorious Juan Gotti. But he was like the best dog I ever had, man. Now this is my dog Boogie. I got this made too by a gentleman in Mexico, Ruben. And this is handmade also out of fiberglass. It's got a lot of details. You can zoom in on it, down to his balls. You know what I mean? Just has a lot of respect I've gotten over the years by a lot of people, and I appreciate that. You know, I stayed humbled about it. I'm stayed true to the game, you know, and I got a lot of following, and I just want to tell my people, keep it real, keep it Gotti line, you know?
How I got started in the dog game was back in the 80s. I was running the Kobe line, and when it came to the 90s, I was running the Old Family Red, Storm Henfield line, Serona, Wallace. And then in the 90s, I was still always doing my research on the gameness of dogs because I want to keep them pure and full of energy. So I fell in love with the Ruffian, which is a Staffordshire Terrier, known as, you know, to the dog game nowadays. So in the early 90s, I incorporated my Red Nose, Storm Henfield line, and my Ruffian, and crossed those two, and that's why I started my De La Cruz bloodline. From that point on, it went to the Gray line, which is me and Tony Moore back in the 90s, I'd say early 90s as well. And in the mid 90s, became Butthead.
My name is Mario Marshall, New Trojan Kennels. New Trojan Kennels was founded in the middle 90s, you know, by me and a good friend of mine I grew up with named Rodney Bingley. Got our early dogs, which were gray line dogs, out of Tony Moore. We bought a female from Tony Moore by the name of Shaka G, and I had, you know, breeding boxers earlier. A few times had some accidental breedings or inbreedings. Noticed that some of these pups would come out, you know, a little different, bigger, you know, or bullier as they say now. So we decided when we got Shaka G, we would try something like that. And out of that breeding, a dog by the name of Monster G was born. Monster G was basically our foundation. From him on is how we developed the New Trojan look. At the same time, there was another dog out that was owned by a guy named Richard Barajas named Gotti. We used him on a female we had to produce a dog named Dillinger. Taking one to one's daughter, the other to the other's, and that kind of developed, you know, the New Trojan look, which came with the dog Dillinger bred to a Monster G daughter, a dog by the name of Strike. Now, Strike is 8 years old now, and he produced a dog by the name of Rolex, who was another one of our main, you know, studs. And, you know, to this day, we're still seeing that particular look that we, you know, kind of started.
Something to where we actually got something too. Kurt, actually my brother, we like real brothers at CLP Kennels. You know what I'm saying? And then Paul from Master P Kennels, he was kind of the green one in the crew. And real young, but he was passionate about the dogs. Kurt had Short Shot and Diamond. I had a dog named Cecil, Platinum, and Remy. Paul had Hennessy and Steel. I say together we probably got three of the best raised females, Remy, Steel, and Diamond. That was the True Tank real foundation. Everybody when our True Tank was built, it was from those three females. Remy, Diamond, and Steel. You know what I'm saying?
This is Paul from Master P Kennels.
And I'm Cindy from Master P Kennels.
We went down to Virginia. I had the fortunate experience to meet Sean, meet Ty, meet Dave, and I was buying my first raised their dog Hennessy from Dave. At that time, I also wound up buying a female from Ty called Alizé, and Alizé is from Ty's kennel. Sean was getting Alizé's little mate sister and a half brother from Hennessy at the same time from Dave. And then shortly after that, I got the opportunity through Dave to meet Kurt. Kurt had Short Shot and Diamond, the world famous breeders that put a lot of these kennels on the map. I had that fortunate experience to meet Kurt.
And Sean got in there and said, hey fellas, if we all get together and want to use each other's dogs, let's make this like a family, a group. So all the breeds for the record, every single breed, and you can see this to everybody, came right out this head right here, right out of Louisiana, right down. If you want to know how any dog was made, Paco, Toxic, Buck and a Quarter, Menace, all of them, I explained to you how. The Short Shine Diamond, had everything. I'm gonna explain one breed that people pretty much know about, the Rowan Paradise. A lot of people think that the Rowan Paradise was bred off of short shot female and a Cairo male like we usually do at True Tank, but in this case we actually did something different. We put that breed together based on two females for the first time. We bred off of Viagra and Paradise because they very, very, very close related. And the thinking was that you take Paradise, who comes off of Short Shot and Diamond. Diamond mom is Koala, litter mates for Cairo. We take Viagra, she comes off of Paddington. So we did a tight line breed on Paddington instead of the actual Cairo blood itself, because Cairo, if you look at him, he's an outcross dog. He made of 4 different dogs. He don't have the same thing. So Shorty actually tight bred. So by taking Paradise and Viagra, we actually tighten the Cairo part up of it, and then that's how you see the Paco, the Toxics, and then you see Paco kids. You know what I'm saying? It's the same exact look, and that's how dogs come out short back. Like the thing with Lil Ro, people like, well, he don't look like Cairo. You know, when Dave did the breed, I don't know if he intended wanted a dog like Ro, but Ro to me was the actually really started to pocket piss off. And when they made Cairo, they took the original Paco, Tuca Spirit, which is a 100-pound dog, bred to Paddington, they got a 100-pound dog in Cairo. And everybody thought that Cairo and V would produce a 100 dog, but no, that's not the case, because that's where genetics come into play. Both dogs, Cairo took after Paddington, V took after Paddington. So when they did Cairo and Viagra, they actually got rid of the Watuka Spirit, because genetic-wise, he wasn't in the breed no more. Blood-wise, he was stood up. And so then that's how Lil Ro came out like he came out. And then we bought Paradise to him. She predominantly took after Short Shot, but she had the blood. So, you know, and it was actually a great little matchup, one of the best breeds to go down in history. It's probably the best road breed, you know, and, you know, we came out looking good. Marco took Paco and did some good things with him on the West Coast. You know, everything to me goes through genetics. If you want a certain look, you're gonna breed a dog that look like the way you want to look. You're not gonna breed on a litter mate just because it's litter mates with this dog, you know what I'm saying? Like Short Shot didn't produce like Blue. Blue didn't produce like Manu. Thing don't produce like his brother. They all genetically different, but they got the same blood. That's like first cousin, second cousin, third cousin, they all the same blood, but why they produce different? Because genetics. And you know, a lot of new breeds today, they not actually looking into the genetic aspect of it. They look more as into the blood aspect of it. And you know, that's kind of why I can take a 2.5 year break and come back and just take this new blood, mix it with our old stuff, our foundation stuff, and do it. You know, like the Rock and Ruby, that was another strand that was genetically matched, you know. By Cruz or whoever did it, took Ruby, Shorty, Diamond, which was our concept. They basically took our concept of the Shorty female to the Cairo male, and Rock comes off of, you know what, he comes off of Cairo, bred back to a Monster G and Raina. Monster G is an outcross, and Raina is a direct Cairo female. They took that back and line bred it back to Monster G and Raina, we made Piggy. Took Piggy and bred it back to Cairo. So actually it was direct Cairo and 2 times Cairo. Took them pups, bred back to Shorty with the Diamond, which was Koala with the Cairo part in it. And that's how you get the head size and the structure of Tonka and Rockzilla and, you know, those type of dogs, you know. It's easy to break down.
I got my first pit bull in 1982. And I started showing in the UKC in 1997. From there, I went to the AKC, and I showed in the AKC. But in the UKC, I think I have, I want to say right around, I produced and handled, not all mine, but produced and handled probably like 18 UKC champions, and I have 4 AKC champions.
I started showing the dogs AKC, American Kennel Club, and then we started competing UKC. The bigger, we started calling them bullier style dogs. We're winning, and then they kind of changed their ways, and they weren't choosing those dogs. They're looking for more of a terrier look for the dog. So once the following grew and the events grew and everything, we decided to break away. We respect Pit Bull, we respect the AM staff. We don't deny its ancestry, but this is what we feel is the evolution of the breed. We just broke away from the United Kennel Club, just started doing barbecues.
And after that, people wanted to compete. It was more than just being a barbecue. Now people want to show their dogs now.
Dave felt that there was a need for these people to show their dogs. That's when he came up with the ABKC, and it was an opportunity to bring these guys in and let them be proud of their animals and have their moment in the sun and show their dogs, and that's basically how the ABKC started. That's probably one of the biggest phenomenal things happening in the canine world in history.
The American Bully Kennel Club was created because our dogs don't fit the criteria of the United Kennel Club. The bullies are just laid back.
It's an amazing thing. Thousands of people, thousands of American bullies from everywhere you look, and in harmony, and people that you wouldn't think would interact with each other in harmony.
People from all walks of life come out and celebrate the American Bully.
Black, white, Mexican, doesn't matter what you are, out here with the dogs, that's what it's about. These dogs bring everybody together in a positive way. We're tired of them getting a bad name. As you can tell, they're bullies, they're American bullies, ABKC.
There's different walks of life there is what I like about it. And we all got one thing in common. We're out there showing our dogs because we've got the love of the breed.
Yeah, the whole group, all walks of life. So it tells you that it's something good.
They walk by each other, very dignified dogs. They don't engage each other's dogs. As a matter of fact, if you look at the show rules, there can be absolutely no dogs squaring off. In other words, you can't put your dog's face next to another dog's face. It's not a good idea anywhere, and they put that right in the rules.
It's important to flip the script and educate people, show them about the breed, show them that we're the kind of people that can have good dogs and that every dog doesn't get in a fight or attack other dogs, that these are positive, great bullies that are here just for showing and, for the love of the community.
Now your dog has a purpose to come out and enjoy a day. He no longer has to just be in the backyard protecting your house. There's a venue for him now, you know what I mean?
These dogs bring so much more than just a good show and a good look. They bring unity. Big shouts out American Bully forever. Hey.
The standard for the American Bully, the standard is going to be a dog that's the male's going to be from 17 to 20 inches, the female's going to be from 19 to 16 inches. But that's going to be the foundation of the varieties. And from there, we take it into the pocket class, which is going to be, for a male, it's going to be 17 inches under, a female 16 inches. Then we also have what we call the XL class, and the XL is going to be 20 inches and above. And the female is 19 inches and above, and that's just overall taller style dog.
This is preference for the American Bully as far as the extreme type. The dog has the wide legs, the wide rear, nice size head.
And we also have a class called the Classic, and the Classic is to pay respects for the dog that got us here, which is going to be your typical UKC, AKC style dogs. So we still pay respects, because without that breed, it wouldn't be here, the American Bully. All breeds prefer a scissor bite. And when we're talking scissor bite, this is a top deep on deep, and you're going to have just like a scissor action. They're barely going to measure, so that's a correct bite. That's what we call scissor. Then you have what they call a level bite, is when the teeth be directly on each other. Then you can even have a reverse scissor bite. It's going to be very, but even this is not something that it's not desirable. Everybody wants a scissor. Then you have what they call an overshot, and this can be hard on dogs as far as eating and stuff like that. But the thing is, what's worse on it, some are really bad. They call them, it's like a nickname, they call it a parrot mouth, like a big parrot's bill goes over up. Then you have undershot, which is the reverse of that, and it's overly done not as well too. These are just features that are not desirable. Everybody wants the perfect body and everything. And when people don't know about pasterns when the dog's up on his feet, it's like the wrist. And when the dog is weak and his pastern is broke down, he looks like he's pigeon-toed, we'll say. You want him to be straight up on his feet. And that's a strong pastern on the dog. And the other thing is we don't want splayed feet, being that the toes are separated. You know, that's an undesirable trait of a dog. We want to have nice tight feet. And then from there we will check what they call the back line or the top line. Top line it's a different, everybody uses the word top line, but the top line is actually a visible line goes from the head to the tail. So it's actually the back line. And we prefer a back line where it comes off where there's slightly slopes down and slightly slopes back up to the rump of the dog, to the rear, and then to the croup. I was asked to judge for the ABKC by Dave, and I thought what an opportunity to come in and try to teach these people that want to, showcase their dogs. They had nobody there to help them. There was a lot of ridicule. There was a lot of negative things said about them, but nobody took a proactive stance and said, well, just teach these guys, just help them out. So I thought it was an opportunity, so I came in and I started judging for them, and they asked me to be the director of judges, and I thought it was a great honor it was. So I became the director and started moving forward, and we're trying to get it to more mainstream, where these guys are all understanding how to handle dogs and structure and genetics and stuff.
A dog that's not displaying bully traits is outside of our standard. So they fit within the classic class, but not within the rest of the standard. So we shouldn't be choosing a lot of dogs that are outside, not carrying bully traits. That's part of what we're doing as a registry, is distinguishing ourselves different from the American Typical Terrier, even though it's the same lineage. So, as judges, we got to start realizing that we're judging a different breed. We're not judging the American Typical Terrier.
All these youngsters know how to stack now. Before it was like stacking. What's stacking? That was a new word for us.
Hi, David Bowman here with Bowman's Bullies. Back in 2007, I was at a Houston show having trouble stacking my dog. Casey worked with me for about 15 minutes. The dog's name was Cat Daddy. You might have known him.
I'm going to show him how to stack a dog. Just stack it with a show ring. And come on and see it.
He won the Houston show, the male class, and what I notice now is I take 5-10 minutes a day, work with my dogs, stack them up, walk them, put them on leads, and it really makes a big difference. So spend a little time with your dogs every day makes a big difference in the show ring. I let them out and I walk them first for a while, get the energy out of them, and then when I'm stacking them, I actually take my hands, rub it down the dog, place the foot where it needs to be placed, and the dog realizes that's what I want him to do.
Hi, my name is Sherry. These are my 3 daughters. We started Double C Kennels about 8 years ago. I've been to 11 ABKC shows. The first show I ever went to, I took Diesel. That was his first show he'd ever been to. I've been to about 9 ABKC shows. I like the XL all the way down. Like she kind of sticks with the pocket. She likes the classic. I kind of like a mixture of them all. I've been to about 5, but I only showed in 3. Yeah. So what we do is we kind of get out there with our whole family. It's something that we can take all of our grandbabies to. It's family oriented. We got a whole other generation. We got seven grandbabies right now that's showing with us. We got a total of about 10. And each one of them are interested in it. They're all wanting to get out there and play with us. They've all picked out their own dogs. Her 1-year-old daughter in Kentucky showed, our little champion boy
Brooke had actually championed out. Took him in the fun class, got 3rd place, tickled to death about it. A year old, you know. So, I mean, that's the positive. That's the positive. That's the things that people need to see out there. Angulation works from this end here, but you're also looking when you're correctly setting a dog, you should be able to square everything up. When you're setting a dog, some people, think that the better they got their dog stretched out, that's what the judge is looking for. And they train them to be automatic, stretched out that way. What you're actually looking for is this to come straight down. When you look down your dog, you're not wanting this to be hocked out like this. You're wanting this to be this way. What they call cow-hocked, in, out, that's not correct. You want this to be perfectly correct. So, I mean, that's what we're looking for.
My name is Dr. Plummer. I am the owner and operator of Critter Care Animal Hospital in the Sugar Land, Texas area. Today we have Carter, which is a 13-week American Bully. We are going to go over some things that are special for this breed of dog and just general overall care for this breed of dog. Dogs generally can overheat because they are not cooling their bodies down. The way that dogs cool their bodies down is they breathe in air, it goes through their nasal passage, and it gets cold in that area and it cools their body down. A note to remember when you're bathing these dogs, you want to make sure either you keep some cotton in their ears so they don't get water in their ears, or you don't wash their face at all. Commonly what happens in dogs is the water gets down in the ear. Because the ear canal is a closed, moist, hairy area, it sets up a good medium for yeast and bacteria to grow. So you want to make sure either you use a drying agent that has some sort of alcohol base to it, or you put cotton in there, or you just don't wash their face at all, or with a washcloth. One thing about this breed of dog is their owners like to see them nice and thick. That certainly can be a negative thing when there's too much weight on their joints. It causes early arthritis, back conformation. So you want to make sure that these babies are a great weight and not overweight. One other thing that I want to make mention about this breed of dog is their hips. Sometimes they have a narrow pelvis area that can make birthing difficult in the females, so they require a C-section. My rule of thumb is if the male is bigger than the female, you want to be very careful with breeding them. Generally, you want the male to be around the same size as the female so the puppies can pass easily through the birth canal. Some dogs can commonly have a retained testicle, and it's called cryptorchidism. That's where one of their testicles is in the abdominal cavity. That potentially can be dangerous. It is a hereditary problem, meaning it comes passed on from their mother or father. That is something that if it does occur, you don't want to breed this dog because it can be passed on. And you also want your veterinarian to remove that testicle. Male dogs can commonly get sertoli cell cancer, prostate cancer, and so if this is not a breeding dog, you want to make sure they get neutered. What we generally vaccinate for is distemper, parvo, hepatitis, parainfluenza, and lepto. Those are all common viruses that these puppies can come in contact with from other animals or their environment. You want to make sure you get them vaccinated at least 3 times, 3 weeks apart, starting at 6 weeks of age. No socializing with any other animals until they are fully vaccinated, so you lessen the chance or decrease the chance of them picking up any of those bad viruses or bacteria infections. There are some intestinal parasites that are zoonotic to humans, and common in not just this breed of dog, but all puppies. Hookworms, roundworms, coccidia, giardia, all of these can be picked up from the environment and other feces of animals that are infected with them. So the way that we do that is just take a fecal sample and we centrifuge it and we check it under the microscope. This is a slide of hookworms. Hookworms are intestinal parasites that are transmitted in 3 ways. In the mother's milk, through the mother's placenta during delivery, or through what we call fecal oral contamination. That is where an infected animal defecates, has the hookworm eggs in that defecation, another animal comes along and ingests those eggs, and it goes through a certain life cycle. This is really important and really deadly. Hookworms attach to the intestinal lining and can make an animal anemic. Anemia is where the amount of blood in their system has decreased to the point that they're really weak and lethargic. You treat it with deworming. A lot of breeders commonly go to the feed store to get deworming. 1, it's not recommended. 2, you have to make sure if you go to the feed store to get the dewormer, you know the proper deworming mechanism, how much to give, how often to give it. My suggestion would be definitely to check with your veterinarian, do a fecal, find out exactly what's going on, get that first deworming from your veterinarian, discuss it with your veterinarian, and maybe y'all can come up with a solution that fits both you and the dog.
You know, one thing about the bully breed is the direction it's going into. It's a lot of flash to it and everything. And at the end of the day, it's still something positive for the pit bull terrier. They can't take this and use it against us. If you use it, it's going to be something positive. Something good is coming out of it.
Every show changes people's minds. I don't care how small it is. Every show, there's someone always there that's never been to one of these things that cannot wait to come again.
You go to a bully show and you will find that their coats are like silk and satin. They are show dogs.
These are the 2 dogs out of probably 300 dogs stand alone right now, man.
All-Star Bully Fest Best in Show is number 3. Congratulations.
This is Mike of Rock Solid Pits, and Mike just won the show, the Best in Show. Mike, how does it feel to win a big trophy like this, man? I mean, I don't think I put that in my car.
Feels good, man.
Yeah.
Our kennel's Rock Solid Pits. It's out of South Carolina. Try to breed American-style bullies. That's just have fun, family pets. Pretty much all it's for.
From the bully barbecues to the nationals, this is what it's all about, the American bully. Right here, and you see it on the Dog Source.
Where else could you go to a dog show where you can see thousands of dogs crossing paths nonstop? And mind you, by inexperienced owners too. So these dogs naturally are getting along.
It's growing rapidly worldwide, and the better in the breed.
We're no longer the minority. We are now the majority. What more I can tell you on it other than this is the evolution of the American Pit Bull Terrier, but it's a new name, it's a new face, and if you look around, it's an extremely diverse face for the fanciers. And I mean, this is my future, and this is, you know, I'm loving to see it. So that's basically what I could tell you.
Responsible ownership is very important. The dogs are only going to do what you allow them to do. So as owners and breeders, it's our responsibility to make sure that we keep these animals safe. It's better to err on caution than to let something happen.
Really, in a sense, there's a lot of guys back in the day, they had to fly around to get this knowledge. And now you're giving it just for sitting at home and popping this in and watching. You just got a lesson. Got to have it. It's a must.
I just applaud everybody that does something right with the dogs. Show them, do something with them that's positive, and I think they'll be around for your grandkids. Otherwise, they won't.
There's a lot of you out there that need to be educated in the dog breed, and just feel free. Some of the older people, they're willing to teach. These dogs just didn't come from the sky. It was God's creation, and somebody was there first to put these names. So please give people their props where the dog originated.
Please just keep on trying to promote the dogs in a positive perspective, because I don't want to lose my right to own this wonderful breed. And I know all the dog people that was here today don't want to lose that right. We work hard for that, you know. So let's get out there and work hard, guys, and keep this thing going, you know. And not for the money, just for the love of the dog. You know, don't get bigger than the breed. Don't get bigger than this game. Keep yourself small. Keep yourself working hard, you know, and letting the dogs benefit at the end.
Little bully the kids all over the building. Raise your hand if you're a little bully the kid. I hesitated, but I got the DNA to prove it. Holla at your boy, bully the kid. All right, I'm gone.
Hades, Hippo, a little boy named Goliath, and I got my boy named Diesel coming out too. Stream Star Diesel.
Future bully. Future bully. He's having a PP nightmare. Let me show you. PP nightmare. He stepped into the PP. He's having one. And guess what? You're pissed too, huh? We're not gonna talk that one.
Without y'all, we ain't.
You heard it from the man. Now we're gonna bleep out that part, but we're gonna be all right.
My bad.
ABKC, American Bully.
I'm gonna let you say that part.
The ABKC, the American Bulldog.
And you wanna see my car? Not really mine. Might be mine one day.
Doing is called Breed Legislation Association. Endangered. Breed Endangered Association.
We're against breed-specific legislation.
We have a new thing called Endangered Breed Association, and these are the people who are in charge. We have Liz, Doris,
Lucretia. And we have Casey.
What's up, people? This is Jay from Machiavelli Pet.
Don't know your kennel name?
You cut. Man. So I'm gonna start all over again. Damn, I can't believe why I can't do that. Why you got the camera all over high like that though? Cut. Man.
Running 3, 2, 1. Hey, we're shooting, man. You gotta get up, man. You're slacking. You're slacking. Come on, up, up. Up, mouse. Come on, up. Oh yeah, there we go. Now we're rolling. All right.
I hate this. I hate cameras. For real, man. I hate cameras.